Can we get one of those then?
Yeah, I think a few of you guys know how to catch them, but we'll try to enhance your fishing tonight. So, guys, what we're going to do tonight, we're going to do 3 sections. So we're going to do soft plastics, and we're going to do rubber jigs, and we're going to do micro jigs. Okay, so it's 3 little bit different techniques and 3 little bit different tackles. Some of the tackle corresponds, especially in the last 2. Well, actually, yeah, the last 2 because it's a softer tip rod. So, like soft plastics will work. We'll start with soft plastics. Okay, this is Stuart 2 by the way, Doug and Jack. So for those who don't know, and so soft plastics we use from right in close, like I'm talking 20 metres out to 120 metres or further, okay? But predominantly in that area and not much out past 120 metres. Reason being, you just can't get a jig head heavy enough to get it down. So you need like 300 grams or 250 grams if you're fishing sort of 250 metres. So every metre is a gram pretty well. That's the sort of perfect scenario, maximum. So 40 metres, 40 grams, 100 metres, 100 grams. If you can sort of match the hatch all the way through, that's 300 metres, 300 grams, okay? But they don't make a 300 gram jig head yet. And it'd be too big, I think, it'd be awkward.
Yeah, it'd be massive.
So generally, if you're fishing in 40 metres, which most of us do for snapper, in close out the front here, the beauty of that is you can fish it in a 12-foot tinny if you know what you're doing. I'll show you safety gear. And you can fish it in a bigger boat as well. And we can use gear like your, when you're using plastics, you can use gear like your flatter gear or your barra gear or your mangrove jack gear. It's all applicable. Real size, 2.5 is the smallest I use, but I like to use about a 4 or a 5. Yeah, somewhere in that bracket. Stu, you're the same?
I like 2.5.
2.5.
I like to be sporting, but anyway.
Yeah.
But I lose a few fish as well. You hook unstoppable.
I was going to say the bigger size, I always get the bigger fish.
Yeah.
So, Stu can see the little ones, mate. So I use something like this fellow here. This is a little Vanford 5000, which is a new reel from Shimano. I got that on a Zodius. That's one of my favourite little snapper outfits. It is a fairly good quality one, but it's just so nice to use and so light and beautiful, you know. Plastics I'm using, this one here is just only small. We've got quite a few really good snapper fishermen that use these little fellows. I think you guys have got some of these in your bag. These fellows here, which are a fuse bait, and they're called the Doctor. Okay, like I don't know if you know Jason Heller, who's a very good snapper fisherman. That's his go-to favourite soft plastic that he uses. We use it a lot as well. But there is an array of soft plastics that would work on, and then do work out on the snapper. But the thing is to try and keep it in, if you're fishing, like the depth sort of corresponds to the size, if that makes sense. So 40 metres, 4 inch, 50 metres, 5 inch, 60 metres, which is 36, 6 inch. And out in the 50s, we're using like 8 and 9 inch for 89 metres. So does that make sense as well? So everything's like, it's just lucky it sort of corresponds. And I use that technique. Jig heads, it doesn't really work on jig heads. It depends on the day of the wind and the current and many different aspects. So, but with the snapper, it's not like when you're fishing for float lining for snapper, you want your bait just to waffle down with like a pilchard. It doesn't really matter the plastics, you actually want it to get down there reasonably quick, so you can sort of work the zone. They slam it on the way down, but they don't slam it anymore if it's a really light jig head and you're forever stripping it off and getting it down there. So you need a little bit of weight. So I tend to use, if I was fishing that sort of plastic inside, I'm using like about maybe 1/4 ounce, but out there I'm using 5/8 or 1/2 ounce minimum, 5/8, maybe even 3/4 ounce if there's a bit of wind and current. When I'm fishing 36s, I'm using up to 1 ounce or more, and if it's a bit of current or a bit of drift, I'll actually throw a Lumo sinker above my jig head if I don't have any more bigger jig heads. So there's lots of ways you can sort of make do with what you got. So if you don't have a big enough, heavy enough, just add a Lumo sinker or a sinker to above the jig head, and we still smack the fish doing that way as well, that technique. I'd rather say more jig heads, but yeah. Fishing the 24s, Stewie, what do you want to add to that in the jigs, mate? In the jig heads, sorry.
I'm going to just say that I really like light jig heads. I don't like heavy ones. But like on the 18s, it's 30 odd meters or whatever. But I always use like a quarter, 1/6 for a quarter. I fish really light.
Yeah,
I float it
18s,
down.
18s maybe, but 24s.
Yeah, I'd still fish under a quarter, under half.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a personal preference thing, as Doug was saying before.
I like
But it
5/8.
depends on your plastics as well. So you can see Doug's got the paddle tail style plastic there. So that paddle tail is going to sink a lot slower. It's going to have drag as it drifts down. And as well, Doug uses a bit heavier line, so it's a bit more drag. Whereas I fish lighter. I fish a lot more straight tail stuff, like little jerk shads. I don't like too many paddle tails for snapper. That's just a personal preference thing. But yeah, a straight tail minnow will sink a lot quicker, and you can get away with lighter jig head. Yeah.
What tail were you using the other day? Got that one in close, Jack? Was that a paddle tail? Yes, right.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. First one for everything, mate. There.
No, actually, guys, they all work.
depends.
They all work. So straight tail, paddle tail, and I really like using shrimps, like Gulp shrimp, 4-inch shrimps. I love them for snapper. I cast that up as far as I can. I leave the bail arm open. I'm casting upwind or up current. Bail arm open, letting it go out. Sometimes it'll just fly out on the way down and get hit hard. But if I do make contact to the bottom, maybe 20 or 30 metres up from the boat and bring it back to the boat, I just hop it and drop it back down again, take up the slack and hop it again. And just lifting it maybe only that high off the bottom, not much, half a metre, and working it back. And you'll always, when you lift up, it'll just get ripped out of your hand pretty well on a big snapper, you know. And that's using like, does anyone use the 4-inch Gulps at all? The shrimp? Yeah, and had luck on them, guys? Yeah, they're really good. There's a whole array of colours. They've got a new model out now too. It's actually called a Nemesis prawn. So it's got a long curly tail, which Stuart would like.
Yeah.
So it makes the plastic look a lot bigger. And they've got the shrimp type front on it. I'll pass those around as well. Get away. The only thing wrong with the Gulp is, as you know, who hasn't used Gulp before? A couple of you haven't. So those of you who haven't, you'll know that you learn that you've got to keep it in this little house in that container, or you buy a Gulp Alive container. With Gulp Alive is like a big container full of this juice that they're in, and you just stack them all in there. They don't mix colours at all or anything, so you can just put all them into the one container and grab out what you want. These things are biodegradable, so they're actually made of food starch. They look like rubber, but they're not rubber. They're made of food starch, and they shrink really small. And if you leave them on the hook, you've got to put them back in the packet. And if you get fresh water in there, they just go to mush. They dissolve because they're biodegradable. Good for the environment, not good for fishing if you don't know what you're doing though. But they work. They're enhanced with like fish food, and they eat them like bait. Simple as that. A little bit cheating maybe for using plastics, but that's about as close as we go to bait tonight. Probably using Gulp.
Yeah, they're like a sponge, so they release that scent the whole time because they've absorbed it.
Yeah, so I just want to ask before going further, guys, 2 ways of doing tonight. Is it easier for how many guys here go out past 50 metres in boats? How many guys can only fish? How many guys got boats under 5 metres? Okay, so probably a few of you. How many people have been out to 36s before? Most of you have, okay. And the 50 fathom reef? Quite a few of you as well. Okay, how about if we do, rather than do plastics, how about we do fishing the 24s and fishing the 36s and fishing the 50s?
Work your way out.
Yeah, is that all right for you guys? So you're using the same technique. So those of you guys who only can go to that distance, we cover everything for you, okay?
Yep.
So plastic-wise, like I wouldn't really use, I'd maybe use a 7-inch, but I would definitely not use a 9-inch on the 24s, but up to about a 7-inch would be as big as I'd probably go. Yep. We'd definitely use those on the 36s and 50s. But try and keep in that, like I said, 4-inch, 40 metres, which is 100 mil. Okay. You write that one, Stu?
Yep.
Yeah, these actually,
Yep.
that sort of thing there smacks them.
Yeah, like that's a 5-inch jerk shad, one of the Gulp ones, pilly colour. And yeah, it smacks them every year. White's another really good colour.
Yep.
And pink as well.
Yep. And pilchard, yeah. So leader-wise, I try to keep that around about that sort of 30, I'll go up to 40 pounds, but 30 generally in close is my maximum. 30, 40, yeah. I know Stuart uses lighter probably.
20.
20,
Yep.
okay, yep.
16, 20.
Yep, that's just Daredevil.
Yep.
I try and keep it at about under a metre. I know you can get a metre snapper, and we caught quite a few of those in close, but their tail is quite powerful, but a metre snapper has probably a 200 mil tail fan on it, so the scales are back that way, so you're only talking 800 max on a metre fish of body. They can actually damage your line. So I try to fish under a metre because I'm always trying to cast. You can see how long my leader is there, it's only maybe 700. I'm trying to cast that outside my tip every cast so I never ever get caught up. Does that make sense? So it just goes, and I'm trying to get the distance. I try and cast the distance of the depth. So I'm trying to cast 50 metres and 50 metres in 24 fathoms sort of thing. And then open the bail up and let it sink. Don't close your bail arm up, whatever you do. If you're using overheads or bait casters, if you're using an overhead that can't cast, you'll need to just put it in free spool, use a bit bigger jig head, and you'll need to probably back up a bit so free falls pretty straight and the momentum goes down a lot faster. You won't be able to sort of flick it out a light jig head very well, not Stewie size anyhow.
No, that's right.
Yeah. But if you're using a bait caster, like say a Alexa 400 or a Tranks or something like that,
style,
yeah, you should be able to cast at 50 metres, no problems at all. Okay. Any questions on that at all?
Do I use slip knots or?
Yeah. So on the jig head, mate. Yeah. So I'll actually cut this off and pass this around. This is I've been using these, but I started using these quite a while ago for my kids for flathead fishing because I got sick and tired knots. They're those quick clips. Has anyone ever used those? So the size 3 I find for snapper are really good. They're about 40 kilos in strength and they're very hard to bend out. So you get a cove on or something like that, they're very strong. But the beauty is that they're very, like a loop knot, they're very free on the end, so that stability is very good. But I do that because my kids, well, they're big enough now, but but you know what I mean. I'll pass this around. You see what I mean? And just have a go at taking it off and put it back on. So if you hold the circle part where your line's tied to and just direct it, it's easy to put on, easy to take off. These are very popular for barra fishing, flathead fishing, everything fishing, and they're cheap as chips. And they do big size. I actually use a size 3, I think it is, which is about 70, 65 kilo. We use that out in the deep water for jigging and for the kings and amberjack. So they're really good. Yes?
If you're casting out the depth that you're fishing, why are you leaving the barrel open?
Because I'm trying to get it to land right out there so I can hop it back.
Right.
Otherwise, it's going to just come back to the boat. And they work best when you can lift it up and let it free fall back to the bottom, coming with the current. Does that make sense? So always bring it back with the current is when you get your fish. Okay. Casting against the current doesn't work, or against the wind won't work because it never gets falls free enough. It gets too much drag on it and doesn't look natural. But when it's coming down naturally, that's when they smack it.
So if you're drifting up on your line faster than it can, so you're not keeping it tight long, it's fine.
If you're drifting up your line pretty quick, then you need to probably
put the motor in reverse.
Yeah, reverse or back up.
Use your electric if you got one or any
of that. So if you cast up that way, and hopefully it'll catch it like that, but you want to just reverse back a bit, something, yeah. But you just got to work it out. But don't, like it's the same with the overheads. If you can't cast it, you've just got to back up and try and make it as natural as you can, hovering above it, and just lift it up and just teabag it. Yeah. Otherwise, it won't free fall naturally. Any drag against it is like when you flathead fish in the same scenario. Yeah. If you get any drag, it just doesn't. You don't get the bites as much. Okay. It has to be coming with the current or with the wind. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Any thoughts on hook size?
Yeah, good call, mate. So one that's strong enough. So I'm using like 20 or 30 pound braid. I think that's actually 30, and it's so thin. It's like I'll pass some braid around in a sec. But these days you can get 22 pounds. The new one has come out, brand new. It's 22 pound, but it's 10 pound diameter. So on that one, you can actually use a fairly strong small hook, because it's so thin. You could probably get away. I'm using like say 5/8 ounce, you can probably get away with a quarter because it's so thin. And therefore, trying to find a quarter that can handle 20-pound braid is hard to find a hook that can handle because you'll straighten the hook out, you know. So you've got to probably look for something a bit bigger in size, maybe 3/0 or something like that, rather than a 2/0, 1/0. But generally 3/0 and 4/0s will fit that sort of size jig, and that's a little bit similar to 4/0, 4-inch, 5/0, 5-inch, 6/0, 6-inch. Does that make sense as well? That's sort of the size. If you keep with that formula too, it works as well. Everything's got formulas, mathematics. So I've talked about the braid. So in leader, guys, you've got some leaders in there. So there's a wind-on leader, and there's some of the guys who got 50 pounds, some have got 40 pound. I'd be predominantly using that size out on the 36 fathoms or 50 fathom reefs. But if you have 30 pound, you can use it in closer. In the braid, this is that one I was telling you about. So it's 10 pound diameter. Oh, sorry. That one's 30 pound diameter and 15 pound. 30 pound line and 15 pound diameter. And this one is 10 pound diameter and 22 pound, which is be about the lightest I'd use in close.
Yeah.
But it's extremely thin, and the weave they're getting, I don't know how they get it to feel like mono. It's so tight. It is ridiculous. So, which allows you to cast a light jig a long way offshore. Also allows you to get your line down a lot quicker, so it falls down in the column so much nicer. And you have a lot less wind resistance on it, you know. So I'll pass that around. You just feel how it feels. You like the feel, and you know what I mean. So that's 22 pounds. And it comes in it comes in like 300 metres or 150 metres. So if you got a little 2,500 size reel like Stuart's, actually you probably get only 300 metres on there.
300 metres on there easy.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, of like 20 or 30 pound, yeah.
So yeah, you need to buy 300 metres, but you could put 150 metres in top shot, a small reel.
What was the name of that attachment?
They're called quick clips. They actually, there's a packet here somewhere, I think. Oh, there it is. Instinct quick clip. Pass that around too. So they come in all different sizes. They come in like, when I was with flatter fish, we use like a size 5, which is tiny, you know. And they're a little tiny. They're a little bit hard to put on those, but did you play with it? How easy it was? It's so easy, isn't it?
It's not going to come off.
No, it's not going to come off,
No.
and it's extremely strong. And just like if you're going through gear, like I'm forever changing my gear around. Say your jig gets too heavy, instead of cutting a retight, just put another lighter jig on, you know, or a heavier one. Saves a lot of time. And if you've got mates on the boat that are not good fishermen, then I definitely suggest, because you don't want to stuff around doing head knots unless you're a good man. So leader, braid we covered. The cheapest braid for the same scenario is grappler. Okay, guys, it's around $74 or something like that. A roll of 300 metres, and it's exactly the same. So this is the maker in Japan. They're the biggest makers, YGK, of braid in Japan. They make for Dai, they make for Shimano, they make for Sunline, they make for many different companies. But they make their own too. They keep the best for themselves. But they also make Shimano grapple as well. So it's nearly the same scenario in thickness. So 30 pounds, 15 pound diameter. Yeah, in normal braid. So drag setting. So for those of you who have caught, how many people have caught like a 80 plus centimetre snapper on soft plastics? And you know how hard their first run is. So the first run, no, don't jack right there. I got smoked. I couldn't stop it on this outfit. And my drag, like if I put any more drag on at the time, I would have broke my line. I had to just go with the flow, and it got me on the bottom. Unfortunately, it chafed my line up. Jack got his fish up. But the first run is very, very aggressive. So even though you've got a light rod, you need to know the power of your rod, otherwise you'll break your rod, the line. So there's a weak link, okay? It's either your knot, your leader, the braid, or your rod, or the gears in your reel. Something's going to give. Or the fish's mouth, the hook will pull out. If you can get everything to go nicely and it's all matched, you'll get the fish, hopefully, if it doesn't get you on the bottom. But if you've got too strong a drag and you lock it up pretty tight, like really tight, I wouldn't go that tight, something's going to break. Well, you'll either turn the fish and be lucky and nothing will break, or you might break the tip of your rod, you might break your line, or you might pull the hook. or strip the gears in your reel. So you have to understand how strong your reel and your rod is. It's really important you understand that. And we can help you with that. Whenever you come in, you bring the gear in, we can say, that's the maximum drag I put on that rod and reel combo, you know? Does that make sense? So please don't over tighten it because you will lose a fish perhaps. And if you don't put enough drag on it, some fish are stupid and they'll take off and swim off with it and they'll just come up and you might get them. But that doesn't normally happen. So my suggestion is just to fish it as hard as you can because when they hit, they just scream back down and they will try and do you on the bottom. So that's why snapper got those big bonks on their head. They just hit it on the rock and I think I said last time, if those guys that watched it with Roscoe jet ski fishing, Gold Coast, if you've watched the YouTube of him and the snapper, he caught with a water wolf, is it called? The camera?
The camera, inline camera.
Yeah, so it's a camera you put on the line, okay, and the snapper hits it's about 7 or 8 kilo, 80, 90 centimetre one, and you see it because the camera's right there in the fish, and it's on the 24s, and it goes straight down, and there's like 2 rocks, like a crevice about this, probably that deep and about that far apart, and it's going hooting straight down, and he's hitting his head trying to bang off whatever's pulling on him. Incredible footage, like it makes you know why you get dusted all the time. So that's what they do, and I'm guessing that's what happens every time you get hook one, those bigger ones. So you just need to try and turn it without breaking anything. Anything to add to that a little bit?
No, that's about right. Yeah. Unfortunately, if you do fish really light, you do lose a few, but it's part of the parcel, I suppose.
Yeah.
Catch a lot more.
What's this like for trying to lead it to like the braid?
Yeah, very good. So there's another formula too. That's why I got these formulas, guys. You can write them down if you want. But if your braid, with the thin braids, if your braid is like, you can think of it as 15 pound, right? The diameter, that's one, there's 10 pound, right? If your braid is less than half the thickness of the strength of the leader, so if you're using 30 pound leader and say 10 pound braid, you have to make a little bimini or something in the braid, so it becomes 10, 20, 30. Otherwise 10 to 30 doesn't work. It'll slip out. It'll slip out.
No chance.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll tell you that much.
Then you'll have to learn, Dave. Yeah, but yeah, that's right. So just remember that if it's less than half the thickness of the braid, of the leader, you need to double it. Okay. Stu, anything else there, mate? On the soft plastic side, before we go to...
Yeah, not really. I think the biggest thing is as well, don't fish too heavy a jig head like hook, as in the gauge of the hook on really light gear, because you just won't sink it. So if you're using quite light stuff,
mate, don't get too thick.
Use like a thin gauge hook, but you still want it to be quite strong.
Yeah.
Just the sort of technique that
Yeah.
So you're throwing it out.
Yep.
And you're leaving the
Bar alarm open.
It's dropping down.
Yep, that's right, it's coming off.
Pulling it back, how fast?
Yeah, so slowly just lifting it up, hopping it and drop back down again. Nothing aggressive at all.
And you're letting it drift into you. And
Yeah, take up the slack each time. That's right, yep. And then letting it come down, take the slack up. I've got a different technique. I just spin my handle and it takes up the slack and next one, dunk, I've got a fish on there, you know. Yeah, it just depends on your technique. And as I said, we've all got different techniques and they all seem to work. Stu does a little bit of a flicker type thing.
That's it, yeah.
And I've watched him and he catches fish that way. I did a little lift up like that and drop back down again. I think Jack's quite a big lift up and drops back down. He's a little bit different again. Wind fast. Yeah.
So who catches the most then?
Well, I look this way, Dean. It's the biggest here, exactly right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Jack. Jack. Yeah. So he goes, heats of plastics at work, but try and keep it 4 or 5 inches. We're talking close now. Keep your jig head under 5/8 down to quarter. Jig head size 3 to 4.0, maybe 5.0 max on a 5-inch plastic. And leader size 20 to 40 pounds. So keep it that formula, you're perfect. Okay. Okay, now we're going to go across to just one other thing. S factor. Okay, it works on inside, works offshore too. So how many people have used that before? Yeah. So it's very, very good. I know it. If you can to put it on, just show you how to do this. Just take it off. So all you do is just put just a little smear, like I know you can't see it in the back. I've just got oil on this one, but just a little tiny bit. And if I got the plastic, let's grab one of these out. Oh, yeah, so it's just a little smear and just pull along it. If you've got like little flute fins underneath it, then just rub it through that. And that's it. And I'd always put a little bit around the jig head. I always put it on the tip of the hook. I rub the hook last. Okay. And I definitely would say it enhances your bite maybe twice. But you've only got about probably, especially out here in the deep, maybe 2 casts before you need to apply it again, okay? But that will last you, they last me, if I go every weekend, it'll last me probably 4 months of fishing.
What about the Gulp?
Yeah, so Gulp, the Gulp's a little bit more different. It's sort of like a harder gel, which is unusual because it's hard to see at the back there, but it's more thicker. And again, same deal, just wipe along it. Same scenario. I'm a bit of an S Factor fan, but I think the Gulp sort of copied it, but utilised their technique in the smell of their product in here as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a different smell.
Yeah, it's like more fishy.
Yeah.
Where this one doesn't have any fish smell at all, but it has pheromones in it which make the fish want to eat it. Okay.
So would you use the S Factor on the Gulp stuff? Or would you
No, so Gulp has its own natural enhancement. You don't need to do anything. They're just going to eat it. So, but with like any of your other rubbers, Z-Man, although Z-Man do have a scented, these are scented. I'll pass those around too. Sorry, mate. Thank you, sir.
Do you rate the Procure scent?
Yeah, Procure is good too. Shrimp scent probably would be our biggest seller.
Biggest seller, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, crab one's not too bad. But
Yeah.
shrimp.
And if you don't want to have greasy hands and wipe them all over yourself like Doug's just done for the last 5 minutes, I just hold the tube and just push it on there and just a little bit of pressure and rub it all over it, and it's the same thing.
Yeah, Stuart.
Yeah.
Stuart gets
But
better wages
it's
than
a
me.
little bit easier.
So I was getting the donger. No, I wasn't. No, good, Stu. There is actually a thing out called a scent glove, I think it's called,
Yeah.
which I haven't done. But it's a big thing. You sort of
It's like a
rub
big
it all on there.
sausage with a sponge
Yeah.
in it.
And you put
You
your
just
plastic in there
clamp
and
it in.
clamp it in. But
Yeah.
I think that'd be all right.
Takes up too much room in your tackle box. I'd rather put a few more lures in there, but anyway.
Yeah, but that'll be
Yeah,
right.
they look
That'll
good
be
too.
right. Yeah. So guys, if we go from there, we then jump up to using like rubber jigs, tie rubber jigs, which is this sort of thing here, okay? So anyone used this type of thing before, which is a ball weight with the skirt hanging off? And did you guys catch fish at all? Put up your hands if you did. They catch the most. This is my go-to, more than plastics, okay? More than anything on this table. That style, doesn't matter what brand it is, it all works. So why do I like it? I like it because it casts a long way. And it's easy to cast because the weight's already there, right? I like it because they tend to quiver a bit on the way down, so they've got a bit more action. And when you dance it, the skirt flutters everywhere and the fish just go crazy on it.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They get stuck on the bottom easily, I found.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, we're like teams the other day.
Depends where
They
you
catch
fish it,
everything, Dave. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, they just outfish anything and they catch big fish as well. So actually that snapper there, Jack got on one of those the other day. And I think probably the biggest snapper I got on was about 90, but you get other fish like kings, you get pearl perch, they go crazy on. You get a lot of other bycatch. Every other species that lives on the bottom is going to eat that thing, where not everything's going to eat that or that. They all eat that. So unfortunately you get a lot of bottom dwellers like those little red rock cozzers and crap like that. Grinners, love them. But one day grinners will probably be a first class table fish one day, I guess, but not at the moment. But and
the most common question we probably get, and everyone looks at the size of the hooks and they're tiny.
Yeah, I know.
And everyone says, how's that going to catch like a decent sized fish? Like that snapper Jack caught the other day was on a tiny hook. We never straightened a hook the other day. We caught pearlies on them, snapper. You just don't fish super, super tight drag. And you won't have a problem. I use a bit softer rod for it, so it's a bit more forgiving.
Yeah, so some partial rod there, Stu.
Yeah.
So this is the difference. This rod here is plastic, you like aggressive, and you're sort of making the lure dance by not dropping the rod tip, right? So this is quite stiff, even though it's not as strong as that rod. This one here is extremely soft.
Yeah.
Won't break your rods, too.
Yeah, don't break.
But this is actually only rated to about 15 pounds. That thing's rated to 30, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's P1.5, which is about
Yeah.
30 pounds.
So they just bend. So the idea of it is when you do the hopping, so to speak, it sort of flicks the lure up, and then the lure weight pulls it back down again, and then you take out the slack and it pops it back up again. And it's the same when you're using the jigs a bit later on. You actually the rod does all the work for you. You don't do any lifting or moving around so much. You just let the rod do the work.
So you're on the 18s, are you still casting one of those up there?
100%, yep.
Even with the soft, like obviously that's probably not rated to cast 40 grams.
Oh, they will.
I just kind of lob it.
Yeah, just lob it out. Yeah, they will. Yeah,
Yeah.
go hard. Yeah, yeah.
So which ones do you use weight-wise? when you-
So again, similar scenario, 40 grams, 40 metres, 80 grams, 80 metres, same scenario, yeah.
Even if the current's stronger?
Yeah, so you're just casting a bit further up, reversing a boat, whatever it might take to do it. You can't just, if you've got a spot lock motor, that's not too bad. You can sort of spot lock and then work it back towards you a bit faster. Sometimes the currents come a bit faster, you'll need to hop it a bit quicker, so to speak. But with that these sort of things, you can't really hop it too fast, although Jack does. But I just sort of lift it up and let it. I imagine it's like a little octopus, He's not going to go dunk, 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 dunk over the joint unless someone's up his backside. But they're just going to sort of just glide, and that's how I do mine's technique. Stuart's similar.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of like
Jack's,
two little
Jack's
hops.
very fast.
Yeah.
And he smacks them, but I don't know. But yeah, casting it up and then hopping it back would be the go. Yeah. With those,
Would you ever put one in the rod holder and
100%, mate. Yeah.
They're
So
really good for that.
if there's just me and another guy, we'll run two that way and work one ourselves as well. If there's three guys in your boat, you probably could do one. Yep. And probably a bit heavier one. So the more heavier one, again, borrow your rod against Chewy. But if I just grab an 80 grammer here, well, it's 100 similar scenario. So it's going to bend the tip of the rod.
Hold it up that way.
Yeah, just sitting in the holder. So when the boat goes down and just the boat goes back up, the action's already happening, right? And that's why it works. And you just sit on the bottom, why not maybe just half a turn. If you're in an area that there's no wire bit and no coral, I'd let it hit the bottom, go slack, and then spring it off the bottom. That's going to get more fish for sure. But if there's a bit of wire, bit of coral down there, you need to get above that crap and sort of hover just above it, sort of thing, Yeah. But it's the rod that does the action, like I was saying earlier. You've got to get that soft tip rod.
Do you just let it out the back from the get-go, or do you cast up in front when the line gets under the boat, you stick it in the rod holder?
Yeah, so if there's a bit of current, I'll try and actually get it to sort of land down behind the boat. Otherwise, you're going to have to up the ante if you say on your spot lock, you'll need to, or an anchor, you'll need to up the ante to a bit heavier so it's sort of sitting below the boat. Or,
So it doesn't drift out the back.
or chuck another sinker above it. It'll still work with a sinker above it as well. Yeah. They just work. But there's a lot of different brands. We sell everything. And there's the new technique of like a loose head to the tail, so to speak. The dough cans are probably our biggest seller, but the problem is we can't get them anymore. So what we've got left is it. That's it. They're already sold out.
what's your favourite colour though?
They all work. And this is the big thing. Like Stewie's like the Frankenstein doctor of dough can. So
Oh, mate, mix and match. Yeah.
So,
the other day I had a black head with like a great snot green trailer and it smashed them. Yeah, love it.
in 100 metres.
In 100 metres.
With
Yeah,
no
so there's
gl-
no glow.
No glow.
Yeah, in 100 metres,
So-
100 gram. I
That's
was using
so
that rod,
sharp.
and it was just
So-
every drop.
That's a black tail, okay, and that one's got a black head. But Stu will put like the black on the orange or whatever, and no matter what mix he does, they smack it. So there is no better colour. I was using a full Lumo, and I think Stu's probably still out fishing me, which is unusual, but Maybe the technique was wrong that day.
And with the Dokkan stuff, it's got like a little wire. It depends on what size leader you're running as well. So I think, where's your rod, Doug?
That one there?
No, heavy one.
Yep.
So this is a 120 grams. So this is the biggest one that Dokkans came in. But you can see we'll cut it off and pass it around. You just got to tie them differently on certain ones because I'll pass this one around. Just watch out for the hooks; they're super sharp.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about that when we go to the heavier line, out wider.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're fishing like a 30-pound leader, you can pull it through the center of the. It's got a hole through the top of it, right? And you put the line through, tie your thing on, then tie that little black thing like I was holding up before, and then that. Actually, Jack will pass it around.
Pull it out.
You can pull it out, and the knot will go up there unless you do lots of knots. If you can't tie any knots, you do lots of knots, it might get stuck. But if you don't, it's fine. But as Stu is saying, when you go to the heavier one, the uni knot won't pull through, right? So we've worked out you've got to, because no one tells us how to use these things, you've got to practice. That's why we go fishing lots. We have to learn to teach you guys, okay? So we worked out you thread it through, you pull it through the this attachment, just thread it through. I'll just pull this off in a sec. You want to cut this off too?
Yeah, cut
around.
while we're doing it, yeah.
Yeah, let's get this out. Yeah, let's cut the video. So we thread it through, we pull it through the eye, and then push it back up through the hole, and then do a uni knot, and then that locks it in just like so. And the uni knot's up here, above it, not on the system itself, and works fine.
They still work if they do like fish independent, so it does slide on your line. But this way, in the real deep stuff, it just sinks a bit more neat.
Yeah.
On the 18s and stuff, you don't have to worry about it. You just throw it out. And
what's so you can have that loose, or you can have it. It actually locks in. You push the tip up and it locks in there. I'll pass it around. That's 60-pound mono, which I use out on the 100 metres, in case I get a king or an amber jack on it, which happens a lot of the time. But we'll talk about that later. So we're in close still. So we're using in close around 40 grams, even 15 grams is fine. 15 is really good actually. So we've got little 15 gram standard little Japanese ones. They absolutely hammer it. Oh, this one here actually, there's one there, that thing there, I'll pass it around. There's squid type ones, they all work. It doesn't matter what it is. As long as it's got that concept of the metal head with the bit of lumo preferably, and the skirt with the two little hooks. Now Stuart said earlier the two little hooks don't hook up very well. I normally would think they don't hook up very well, but they hook up so well.
Really good.
So most of your bigger fish are lip hooked in the lip. It's never down the throat like you are with some of the other lures. It's lip hooked, okay? I'll pass around some smaller ones, different brands. So anyhow guys, so it's not the aggressive technique like using with your plastics or whatever way you want to do it. It's cast up and it's just, actually you can just slow wind it, just lift it and slow wind. It's very gentleman's jigging. And it just, bang, those work. You actually feel bites, you'll feel that you lift up as you slow winding, you feel dunk, dunk, and then you feel whack. And that's them, they're trying to bite it, then they hook up hard. So is anyone, so you guys have used this, right? If you guys have used these things before in the crowd here tonight, and that's how the technique normally works. So in close. So yes, they do get caught on the bottom a bit. That's just part of the parcel, Dave.
60.
Sorry, mate. No, I don't. I don't, because I believe the more loose and floppy that skirt is, the better it works, mate. Yeah. So don't do that. Yeah. Any questions on those at all? Okay, and then we're going to go now to the micro jigs for enclosed, okay? So micro jigs is exactly the same lighter rod. You can use them on this rod if you have to, but I prefer to have a very, very soft tip rod. So we've got rods down there like a P4, like, well I wish that overhead one on here, sorry. So you can see how thin that is from down, if you see it down the back there. That's rated to P
2.5.
2.53, yeah. So you can use like 60-pound braid on that, right? I've got 48, I think, is or 50 on there now. But even that, but it's super soft, really, really soft. So if I put a, just even a 100-gram jig on there, it's bent like that before I even do anything. So you've got to have that action. and it's so nice to use. Like, I've never been a really, really super soft rod guy offshore. I like to at least have a bit of a broomstick, so to speak. And in the jigging style, and jigging I like heavy and bring up real fast. But now I've learnt the slow technique, and it's so much more productive, so much more easier on you, and it's just such great fun.
Yeah.
Like
It's totally
we hardly
different.
take bait out now.
Yep.
We just take jigs. It's just so good. It's another version there. So that's P3, which is also 60 pound. Again, it's very, very soft, but takes a very, very strong line. Okay.
Pretty good rig there.
Oh,
What's
this,
that
okay.
going on there,
This
mate?
is, sorry guys, I've got to change the subject for a sec. The other day we're catching dolphin fish at the FAD, and on those, you've got a pack of those in your things actually, really good snapper one, but so good on dolphin fish too. And Stewie, we ran out of jig heads because we
No, we ran out of pillies.
I ran out of pillies, and
Yeah.
then did we run out of jig heads?
No, that was just on there, so I'll put that on
Oh,
there.
that's right, yeah, ran out of pillies.
First cast got one.
Stewie puts
Quick as.
3 gangs up a
Yeah.
soft plastic. I've never seen that before, and he caught a bloody fish on. I couldn't believe it.
Inventor, mate.
I think this happens to all your fish, all luck, mate. I could be wrong, but anyhow, yeah. But just tell me about the softness in the rods. Okay, and then we're going to go to the little micro jig. So again, 15 gram jigs, like that little thing there, will smack anything inside 50 metres big time. Again, cast it up and just let it go down and take a while to get down, then just slow hop it back to the boat. This style has like the skirt attached to a jig, so it's a similar concept to what's going around now, like an early version of it, so to speak. So the skirt's actually as big as the head, and very tiny hooks, but all lip hooked, and they work very good. But again, 40 grams, which is that sort of size there. Actually, I'll pass those. Oh, you guys set one of those in your bags, I think. But pass that around. That's about as small as I'd use in a non-assist type of thing like that, just normal hooks on it. Would be about that size there. Now they've got a fairly big hook on those because the guys from Cast who do a lot of jigging, if you watch them on YouTube, you can watch the guys from Cast at all. They're pretty good jiggers in that. The jigs are designed to use all over Australia, so they'll use that up on the reef catching, 10 kilo coral trout. So the hooks are designed to suit every application. So they're not really suited when you see something like that size on that one compared to that. But it's a different type of lure concept style. There are other lures in that range that have like trebles at the back and assist at the front. And then you've got lures like that style, like flat type style. So flat type style is a very shimmy on the way down, so they get nailed a lot on the fall before it gets to the bottom. And they'll also get hit when you do the lift and it falls back down again. They get hit very, very easily because they're very active in the water, where a lot of these other jigs sort of dart away, but there's no like that sort of shake. As I said before earlier, these things shake, that's why they work well. And so do the flat style, like that style. I'll pass that around too. And so do those. The one going around actually is a flat style at 40 grammer.
Doug, is that how you work all your micro jigs? You cast them up ahead?
Yeah, I don't when I'm fishing out in the deep water and I'm just dropping it down, backing up.
Yeah.
It's only when I'm mainly in close.
Yeah.
Yeah, like under 50 metres. Yeah.
And so those little like thin style micro jigs, you find there's enough action?
They're not as good as the flat style. Yeah, there is, but they're designed more for like bonito or kingies, amberjacks and stuff like that. A bit
It's
more
a quicker retrieve.
aggressive. Yeah, where this one's like just a slow lift and take up the slack, and they just flutter and they get smacked. Yeah, but the other one's got to sort of work them a bit and get them to dart on the way up, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different action. Yeah.
Like using the same rod or different kind of rod?
When I'm using the longer style, I'm using more stiffer style like that. Yeah, because the rod doesn't really do anything but just be the crane to pull it up, where the other ones, the rod's giving the action to the lure. Yeah. But don't get me wrong, you can still use that long skinny type jig. I'll pass it around too. For actually that one and that one there, Jim. You can still use those slow. They'll still work, but they just shoot. They don't flutter or anything. So on the snapper, like snapper, we're talking about snapper tonight. So snapper like a little bit of action. I don't know if they have enough action to. You get snapper on them. I get snapper on my jigs this long when I'm jigging for kings and amberjack at 100 metres or 90 metres, but they like more flatter style. If I had to use a flatter jig or that type of jig out in that same day, I would have got a lot more snapper, I think, you know. So, any questions on that at all, folks? No? Okay, good. So we're going through all the gear, then I'll tell you where to go and what to do when we get there. So, any questions on enclosed then? So we've got that covered? Yep.
For your plastic stuff, do you use big eye jig heads at all?
Yeah, I do. And we've got them here actually. Yeah, they're really good. So the big eyes have got a really good strong hook, good attachment. And the colour I think enhances it a bit more. So definitely a goer. Yeah. Yep. The only trouble with the big eyes is you don't get many for the price. Apart from that, they're good. Yeah. Okay, we'll talk about the GPS marks. So on the marks, how many guys here fish north of jumping pin? I'll just let you in a little secret, guys, because that's what I'm all about, or we're all about here, Stewie.
Here we are.
Is sharing the goss and the truth about fishing. Up off jumping pin, or north of jumping pin, there are some very, very, very good snapper fishing spots. For the guys there that are watching, I'm sorry you don't know what these ones are, you can maybe ask us. But the top two, the 41 and 43 mark, are sort of north of jumping pin, and then if you keep on that same line and keep going up north past these guys, there's a lot of reef all the way up on that sort of 48 to 52 metre mark off jumping pin, going right up to Near Point Lookout. And my biggest snapper, well, of course some really big ones out the front here too, but that's been the biggest. And like we caught one, this is many years ago though, but we never got a fish under a metre, okay? And I think like they were big. I don't know how big they were back in the old days. If does anyone remember the older guys here? The old wooden barbecue tables with the wooden flat back benches. I think the table used to be 6 foot by 4 foot. The snapper with the width of the table, and we're going to fit about 5 on the table. So they've got to be 1.1 metres. I think about 30 pounds maybe. I don't know.
I'll see some photos of that dog.
Yeah, actually, I've got photos.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, but they're worn out.
Yeah.
No, I got some.
Nah.
I'll show you. I'll put them on Facebook. But anyhow, that area is really, really good, and it still fishes incredible. So that's you're talking about Sully's area. Has anyone fished Sully's Reef at all? Yeah, it's a very good spot. And there's some big snapper there at times, some really good ones, and heading down towards the Cotton Reef. Then there's a big jump. You go down to 2756. So that's straight off the seaway here. Straight up. That's jumping. That's North Stratty, South Stratty, and that's Burley Heads. Then that's Tweed Heads. It's the seaway just here. So this is like the 24 fathom reef. This green one, which is like just under 50 metres, and it slightly curves with our coastline. And the 36s slightly curve, but it's not as much. But it tends to go out a bit as it gets down south. And the 50s is nearly a straight line, slightly bit curved, but not much. Not as much as in here. So that's how it sort of runs with the same ridge as our coastline. And when you talk at 2756, you're talking level with the seaway in this area here on the green line. So we're talking under 50 metres. And when we go down to 2800, which is right down the bottom one, we're talking about off Q1, which is about probably around here somewhere. So most of the marks are within 10k of the seaway, except for those top 2 marks, okay? So those are your little boats. These are really good spots. Please keep them to yourself. And fish them early morning, and late afternoon's good. But hey, I've had like unbelievable sessions, 10, 11, 12 o'clock in the day, and you're about to go home, or you change to something else, or whatever it might be, and think, oh, I'll just try that reef on the way back, and they're on the bite. But that becomes back to the bite time, okay? Did anyone get out on Monday? Who went out Monday fishing? Probably a few of you did. Luke, how'd you go? Oh, you went to Stewie, mate. That's right. Going all right?
Smashed them.
Smashed them.
Smashed them. As always.
Yakkers? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, slimies.
Okay, who went offshore on Monday, I should say? Who went offshore on Monday? No one. Serious, guys. Now, the weather was a bit crappy, but it was fishable. Okay, you guys have got a lot to do. Who went out Tuesday? Good, yeah, you're clever guys. Okay. How'd you go, Dean? No good at all. Dave? Happy? Yeah, good. Small snapper, mate. Where'd you go to, mate?
We went out in front of surface.
Okay, so you're down around that 28.00 59. 27.58, the third one from the bottom on the under 50 metres one there.
There was about,
That's about off sort of focus.
there was about 10 boats around us and
Okay,
no one was getting anything.
yeah, right. Did you get out there early?
No, not really.
No, okay, so that's the problem. So the deal is the moon was in the sky only until about 7:30. So once that moon went down, it's shut off time or it goes very quiet in comparison. I don't know about you, Dave, did you get the fish early?
First drop we got a belly 36.
Yeah.
Just on the
Yeah.
slide,
Yeah,
and
And-
then stopped that after about an hour.
yeah, that's right. So 7:30. And that's so important to remember. So full moon is nighttime fishing or afternoon fishing. As soon as the moon disappears in the sky, it's just not on. So every day now it actually gets better because the moon's up a bit later in the morning. So come sort of next Tuesday, Wednesday when the weather's meant to be not too bad, weekend's terrible, you got sort of moon up till about probably midday, so that's a really good time to go fishing. And that's how it sort of works. It'll be, and when it comes down to the new moon is actually in the sky nearly all day. You just don't see it, but it's up there. And that's when the fishing's really good. Okay, we've got 36 fathoms now. We'll come back to those GPS marks. So 36s, we're going to go back to the plastics again. So for those guys who can't get 36s in your boat, I don't know how big your boats are, but I had a little 4 metre Hornet once, a 35 tiller. I used to go 36 in that, but I'm a bit game. When I was a bit younger. So it depends on the day. Like obviously got to be under 10 knots. If your boat's around 4.5 metres, preferably under 10 knots and under, preferably metre swell and under, and you'll be all right. Okay. Understand where you're going. Understand who you, and preferably go for your first trip with another boat for safety. If your boat's 5 metres or bigger, at the 36 fathoms, you're pretty safe no matter what, as long as it's sort of under 20 knots, 15 knots maybe. And if you've got a 6 metre boat, then you're all right. If you don't have a 6 metre boat or 5.5 metre boat, find a friend who does have one, and you'll get out there. Yeah. So going back to the plastics, we're just up the ante. So that's as small as I would use that what went around earlier on the 36s, but I probably wouldn't use that size. I'd use a bit bigger profile. And I'd probably be using around that, what do you reckon, Stu?
Yeah, I'd probably get fish around that 7-inch.
Yeah.
Just in a jerk shad style. I like them, they sink nice and quick for what they are. Yeah.
Yeah. The funny thing is, this is a real weird part. My biggest snapper are always, I get the old big ones out wider, but my biggest snapper are always under 50 metres. Okay, so some of those areas that you got on there, just on the 24s out the front or in closer 18s, fathoms, is actually, just a real quick one guys, sorry, go back to that sheet. The 3rd, 4th and 5th mark were my biggest snapper off the Southports as ever come from. It was only a few years ago. And we got them every year. Jack got one last year, nearly 90. We always get like 90s. Every year we get a 90 there, you know, off those 3rd, 4th and 5th mark. And May, June is the start of it. July is really good. Okay, so it's just coming on. That's why we're doing the seminar now. Give that a go. But what I'm trying to say is that the 36s, I've caught big ones at 36s, but I've caught a lot more bigger ones in close. But we use smaller profiles in close and we use bigger at the 36s. It doesn't quite make sense. But you can't say that there's more water out there because it's the same water no matter where you are. There's water everywhere. So why does it work that way? It's just the way it is. Okay. I think it's more about the size of the jig head you need to get down there, and you can't put a big jig head on a little plastic looks crap, and probably doesn't look natural enough. But if you run an ounce jig head with a 7-inch plastic, it looks perfect match. That's why you got to do it, I think. That's what I believe. I'm not used to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go up bigger. So technique exactly the same. Someone asked before, do you cast out wider? I think you asked. Yeah, I do. I still try and in my float lining, same deal. I try and cast at 70 metres. and leave the bail arm open, same scenario. But if I'm using a bigger, heavier jig head, like maybe 1.5 ounces, and the current's ripping, which it does out in 36 compared to in 24s, then I'm backing up and fishing straight down pretty well.
Yeah.
And just lifting up and hopping it, sort of thing. Teabagging it, like we do for flatties in the deep.
Yeah.
Same scenario.
Are you using the same rod?
I'm using the same sort of rod as that. I will use that at 36s. Definitely, I do use that at 36s. But I might use one a little bit heavy with like a 6,000 or an 8,000 on it at times because I've got line capacity. So when even though this line's very thin, when I'm fishing 70 metres, it sort of goes down a bit too much. And if you've got a crappier line, like a thick line, you'll empty half the spool on a reel that size. And that's the problem. It doesn't come off. The inertia's not enough to make it free fall natural enough. It's like clunk, clunk, clunk. And I don't think they like that too much. So you need to have a spool fairly full, but when you've got a bigger reel and it drops 70 metres, that might only go down 3 mil or 4 mil. So it just flies out. So hence why I got a bit bigger. Yeah. So my rod will be like a 10 to 15 kilo spin, or 6 to 10 maybe, with a 6,000 or something like that, or an 8. Yep. That's to do it properly, yeah. And then I'll use that same one at the 50s because that's big enough. Yeah, but I still use that at the 50s too sometimes. Have a bit of fun because the line's so thin. This is 30 pound, and it's that same stuff. It's very, very thin. So that's actually got 300 metres on there, and I didn't fill the spool on a 5,000. So it's ridiculous. Yeah. So plastics and that, jig head's just a bit bigger. That's the same scenario, same everything, guys. But if you've got current and you've got wind and your jig head's not big enough, please put about a 4-ball, 5-ball, 6-ball sinker on top of your jig head. And even just, like I've actually fished, when I'm casting and I'm working a jig head, and I'm not using one of these ones perhaps, I've got one of these in the boat. I've actually put like a Gulp on with the biggest jig head I got, and I'll throw an 8-ball or 7-ball, do what you're saying, drop it straight down the bottom, and then just sit in the rod holder, and just because it's a long rod, it still does move a bit with a bit of weight on it, and that's enough to hook the fish up. And it's sitting in the back of the boat, probably about that angle, the current, while I'm working the other one, and I just hook up. But if you've got access to that, I'll be using that over the plastic.
How far off the bottom though?
Oh, just one turn, just like enough so it doesn't get hooked on the bottom too much. Depends on the area you're fishing too, you know, if it's rubble, or like we fish some areas, not so much out there, but on the 24s they're actually, I believe they're like, because the fish are full of it, like a sea urchin type bottom. Like might be gravel with sea urchins on it, and you never get caught in the reef, but you get really big fish there a certain time of the year, snapper. And when you catch the snapper, they're just full of sea urchins, you know. Yeah, so in that scenario, I'm hitting the bottom, bounce off the bottom, hit the bottom, bounce off the bottom, because it can't get hooked up. But when I'm fishing somewhere, I drop it down and I hook up and I go, crap. Straight away, if I can get it off, I'm going to wind it up a bit and sort of hover above it. Yeah. Which we did the other day.
Yep.
We got a lot of old craps.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the soft plastics. Any questions on soft plastics there, guys? All good? So when you go to these type of things, you're just up in the ante. So the lightest I'd use on the 36 would be about a 40 gram, and the average would be about an 80. Or 100 if you have to. If you put the rod holder, maybe 120, because it's going to sit there and work hard at the back of the boat. And yeah, we've been using these things for like 15 or so years. I don't know what that the kawaii jig, the little pink one going around. We did those first batch of those back in 2004 or something.
That was a long time
from
ago,
Japan, and there was nothing on the market. And it's because my wife's Japanese. I was in Japan and I saw these things on the wall, and one of my Japanese mates took us out fishing, and that's what we were using, and that's why we did it. So in Australia here, because no one's doing it. So then we go, well, how good are these things? And we didn't know how to use them. So we just played around until we worked it out. But they just work so well. Now there's like 1,000 different brands, cheap ones, dear ones, Japanese ones, Chinese ones. But the quality on the cheap ones, the hooks aren't very good. They bend out quite easy. And sometimes the attachment of the cord is like just cheap cord, and even though a snapper will rust it away, you know. The better ones are like really good material. like a strengthened Dyneema or whatever it might be, or like a Kevlar type material, and they don't break. They look thin, but they don't break. Yeah. You can add bigger hooks on some of these as well, but you need to get a skirt, like a silicone skirt that you use on a spinnerbait that you can attach to the bottom of the jig. So some of these are built in, if that makes sense. So the hook and the skirt's all together. So once you go changing the hook setup and put a bit bigger, stronger hooks on, it doesn't always necessarily work because it doesn't fit on with that skirt. So you need to get a spinnerbait type skirt and sort of slide it onto the end of the jig or over the top of the hook, pull it through and just have it sitting on the hook. We actually just use Lumo skirts.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lumo skirts are good.
Yeah.
Little Lumo skirts will work fine. Okay. Those legs keep going. Yeah. So
even like a little Lumo plastic. You get little curl tails that are quite
yeah,
Lumo.
Jack did that the other day.
Yeah.
Smacked them.
Still caught them.
Yeah.
So. Lost all the skirts, so Jack improvised and used some yellow cable ties that we found in the boat and some glow-in-the-dark curl tails, and the next drop got a snapper and then a pearly after that. Yeah. Yeah. As he was having a sleep, right under his arm. Yeah.
Just like flathead fishing.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. So improvise, but you can make. We're always playing around trying to work out how far you can go with what you got, and you don't give up. Don't just go home because you've lost your lure. Keep trying. Improvise. Okay, it works. Any questions on those on the jigs here for 36s?
Are you backing up on your line when you're using like an 80 gram? Like I tell you, you're not
If
that anymore.
if the current's running like it was, let's say 2 months ago or a month ago, it was doing like 3 knots, and the wave rider buoy is just about getting sucked under, or the fad, sorry, then I would be definitely doing that, backing up or whatever it might take to keep in contact with it, and probably letting out a lot more loose line at the time, and then just winding it back up again and dropping it back down again. So a lot of people ask, the question no one's asked tonight is how far do you wind up before you drop back down again? If you are stationary, about probably a quarter to a third of the water column. So maybe come up in 60 metres, maybe 20 metres, and then drop it back down again. But if you're chasing, like I know we're chasing snapper, but if you're chasing pearlies in particular, they sit right down low in amongst the wireweed. So you only get like maybe, instead of 100 metres, you only come up maybe 10 metres max. Because you won't get anything after that. Slow wind retrieve, yeah, that's right, with those, yeah. So they do work, guys. If you want to just drop it down and back up on it, like you're saying, and it hits the bottom, and because it's right there, you can lift it up, slowly lift up, that's what I do. You see the action a bit later. And then I drop back down, and then I just take up the slack a little bit, and I might work it up a bit higher. So it's actually coming up slowly through the column. But every time I drop the rod tip, or it pulls the rod tip down, it falls back down a little bit before it comes back up again, the next level. And that's when you get the hits up, and that's the thing. But I believe all fish have they're like jacks when you're fishing for jacks and you cast out there the pontoon, and they'll come out, they've got this threshold, this safety threshold, and once they get to that limit, they'll either hit it or they'll just go back down again. And I think it's the same with pearlies and snapper. They'll come up, and once the pressure, whereas they feel, they go, oh, that's my limit, and they go back down again. Or they're going to give one last dash at it, which quite often happens. And when we're jigging for kingies and that, you jig away fast jigging, obviously, and you're about nearly halfway up, and you think, oh, that's it, I wind, it's because it's a bit of an angle. So then you wind real fast to bring it back up, to drop back down again. As soon as you start winding fast, you're already over halfway. Next time, whack, it hit you on that far up, So I think maybe changing even the technique at the last bit, wind a bit faster the last bit before you drop back down again. Just change a little bit,
So when you're out wide, do you find the rod holder technique works well when it's just like out of an angle out the back, or does it have to be down vertical?
No, it can be. No, as I was saying before, it can be that angle. That's fine, but you just got to put a heavier lure on it, or a sinker on top of it. Yep, definitely.
I think that's the biggest thing with all these braids as well. Like, it doesn't have to be the latest and the greatest thin stuff, as long as it's multicolour. So the other day we were fishing 100 metres, and every time you just count the colour, and you'd say, oh yep, I've got it on the second colour up, so you're 20 metres up, or vice versa. So you know where those fish are, That's
really important.
Yeah.
So like if you're not fishing coloured braid, you're probably not doing lure fishing justice.
Yeah.
When you're casting, it's a little bit different because you can't count the colours as they're coming off is going too fast, but you can count the colours coming in. So you know it's at the bottom out there, and you know it's roughly 30, 40 metres up from the boat, and when you're hopping it back, the black comes on, and the red comes on, and then I'm getting closer. Normally it will be pretty well spot on to be vertical before you bring it up. Yeah. I sometimes will, especially with these, this type of thing, I'll actually lift it up, and because I did a slow type thing, I'll actually work it with the current, pack as far as I can get it back behind the boat before it goes out too much, and then I'll wind it up. And quite often that area there is where we get a lot of hits. Yeah, it's the back quarter of the boat. If you've got a cabin type boat, then you can't get up around the front a little bit. It's a little bit difficult. Just cast as far up as you can on that angle and hop it back. If you've got a centre console, it's all right, or an open tinny. But if you've got a front cab type boat, it might be a bit difficult, but just persist with it and cast up. So you won't be able to probably see the first bit as it gets down close to the boat. You'll feel it though, but your technique will, just as long as you do the same technique, you know it's working. Back to get it level with you.
When you're jigging, is it better to use a spinning wheel or overhead?
Yeah, that's personal preference. I like spinning reel in closer because I can cast. Out wider, I prefer overhead actually. So it's a personal thing. Yeah, but I would definitely recommend, as I was saying before, it's hard to use an overhead unless you've got a bait caster or a bigger bait caster style, like a Trax or something.
Yeah.
It's difficult to use it in close because out wide you can just drop it down, as we were saying earlier. But with the egg bait you can cast a light jig a long way up, or plastic especially. Yeah. So
you've got more line capacity on an overhead style reel for out wider.
But you know, I'll still jig with something like that in close to out. I wouldn't use that rig that it's stupid on, but I still use that in 40 metres, and I definitely use it out in 120 metres. So I can use it everywhere without buying two rods because it's still soft on the tip, soft enough on the tip. And it's probably heavy enough to use plastics on. It's stiff enough. So that's a P like 3 or 4 rod. P2 rod's going to be soft like Stewie's or 1.5. And this one here, I would use that at 36s definitely, but I'm mainly going to use this on the 50, sorry. Out on the 50, sorry. Yeah, because it's just dropped straight over. We'll still cast it up maybe 10 metres max. Otherwise
It's more of a pitch, so it's a lob.
Pitch out.
Yeah, with those bigger jigs.
But it's very soft on the tip. Yeah. So it wouldn't work on soft plastics in close, unless you're going to drop it straight to the bottom. Okay, so we've done the rubber jigs in 36s, and then just the jigs, there's one that went around a bit earlier, I think, but this is a bigger version of it. This cast, that's 100 grams. That's probably a really good size for the 36s. Okay, so keep it flat and short, but not too thick. And most of these guys will have, most of the jigs, every brand, that these slow pitch jigs are like curved on one side and ribbed on the other side, whether it be ribbed that way or ribbed that way. And the idea of that is, when you lift up and you drop it, it'll shoot, but then it'll roll over and then it'll quiver. And it might shoot again and quiver. And that's why they just get hit so good. Okay. So they've got two different types of action on the same one jig.
I know this is going to sound really weird, but if you want like a slow fall jig to sink quicker, say you're fishing in 80 metres, and you know there's only fish in the bottom 20, so you need to sink it reasonably quick through 60 metres, just like feather your line on the way down, and it won't flutter the whole way. So it'll sink a lot quicker, and then you can just stop it and just let it free fall, and then it'll start your flutter. So just a little bit of feathering on the line holds your jig reasonably straight, and it doesn't get all that loose line to like flutter the whole way. Yeah, sinks a lot quicker for that top wasted section anyway.
That's exactly right. So what I do when I cast out, I've got a tangle here, guys. It's happening. Stewie, I think
happens pretty frequently.
I think your lure's getting shot, mate. So
yeah.
Actually, I might pass this around so people can see how to do it.
It's pretty good. We're actually
see
we're actually going to patent the idea pretty soon. Actually,
you can see the bite marks on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I cast up or even just a little bit out, as soon as I open that up, I'm actually holding my rod like just letting it free fall as quick as it can go down until I get to the zone. And we get to the zone, and then I'm just letting it more naturally just work its way down, like Stu was saying. So yeah, at the start, I'm always holding my rod directly at the angle that the line's on. Bit hard again on the hard cabin boat because you can't really see where that direction is, but you can sort of look outside and do it at the same time.
When you throw the bail over?
When it hits the bottom, before I throw it over. I want it to be out there as far as I can get it out there and work it back. Yeah. So it's different to when you're jigging for kings and amberjack. You want to go straight down and you want to just work that area below you. It's a wholly different scenario, Dave, yeah, to snapper.
Stu, that piece of spaghetti that you throw a lot
Yeah.
of how heavy are you fishing off that? Like, I mean, you know,
120 grams.
seriously?
Yep. I fished 120 grams on it the other day in a snapper ball.
I've got those rods, but I keep them for enclosed, so
Yeah.
that Stu brought his out.
That's it.
And he did really well today. I was
Like
impressed.
the jig weight on it's 30 to 60 grams, and I fished 120, and it was fine.
So strong.
Very, yeah,
I don't want to break the tip, but it's ridiculous.
yeah.
Is that a 3,000?
3,000, yeah.
Yeah.
3,000. I got
Upgraded
P1 on
the
it.
deep mate to fun 2.5.
Yeah, that's right. It's got 20 pound on it. I fished 40 pound leader.
Yeah.
Boys, when you get to the reef, what determines what technique you want to use first?
Okay, good question. So it depends on how the fish are on the reef. So if the fish are down low, I'm using slow pitch. Very slow pitch because they're working the bottom. You don't want to come up too high. You just want to slow fall it around the bottom. So I'm using either one of those two techniques. You know, I'm talking more 36s and 50,000s. If I'm fishing close, I won't go much to I do use those little ones in close. I do really well on them, and we've done well on those too. But I'm predominantly using more that style in close.
Yeah, I think if they're higher in the water column or a bit off the bottom, you use something that sinks a lot slower. You want to maximise your time in that section.
But the snapper out here tend to be like up to maybe, if you're in 40 metres deep, they might be up to about maybe 10 metres max off the bottom.
Yeah.
So you sort of work in the bottom. You work in the bottom everywhere. But when you get to the 50s, and if they are stacked up high, they'll probably be more kings and amberjack than snapper. They'll be still down a bit lower. So I'm trying not to get those if I'm going to go target snapper. I won't say no if I catch one, but yeah, try not to get them. Yeah. Just another thing too on the assist too, guys. I was saying before about trying to put a skirt on something like that. You can get stuff that does have skirts on it, like that type of stuff there, which you can add to any of your rubber jigs or your or this type of jig here.
Do you have results with it, or?
Definitely. If you got bare hooks, right? A few years ago, they only come with bare hooks. There was no dressed hooks. There was, but not in Australia. And then I think the Asians started dressing their hooks, and then when they come here and we tried it, it's just so much better. The results. Yeah. The only thing I'd say is not really make much difference on is when you're fast jigging. Because plain hooks are fine, because it's the lure that does all the action, and they don't see the hooks. But when you're doing slow, and you've got that sort of fluttering behind the jig, it's what makes it. Yeah. So I'm glad they've got dressed hooks on most of your little jigs. Yeah, because that's what you need, and that's why these things work so well, because they're fully dressed. Yeah. The more bling, the better. Yeah. So, any questions on the 36s?
Do you use vibes at all?
Yeah, so we talked about that tonight actually.
Vibes are a really good rod holder
Yeah.
thing as well.
Yeah.
Like with
Yeah.
you can actively fish them. They are quite good, but if you use a bigger vibe rod holder.
I find vibes are good in close, but I don't like them out in the deep water. There's too much
It's too much drag.
drag, yeah.
It pulls them up too high.
So
Because of the
windage, but there's just
Yeah.
too much drag. Yeah. And they're very hard to work unless you've got no current.
Yeah.
But then they take a long time to get down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, sub 50 metres, 100%. Yeah. And it's, yeah, so they're like the version of that, so to speak, because they've got their action. Yeah, that make it work. Okay, 50 fathom reef. So 50 fathom reefs probably bar soft plastics, although these things do work out there on the 50 fathoms. It's more metal and tie rubber jigs that work really well out there. The reason being with these, as I was saying earlier, it's hard to get a jig head big enough to get these down in most days when it's blowing 15 knots and you've got 2 knots of current. It's really difficult to get it down.
Yeah.
So if you can get away with something like that with maybe a bigger jig head, like that's a 7.0
3-ounce head.
3-ounce
Yep.
jig head and TT. The minimum would be like a 1-ounce 6.0 would be the minimum I'd use on it out there. And those elevated jigs, anyone use those yet at all?
Yeah, everything
So-
swings independent. They're
Yeah.
really good.
So they're a little bit like this style of thing, because the hook's is independent to the body, so it has a lot more action. Okay, so you rig up your plastic on the hook's swinging off the end of the jig head on a split ring, so it's just totally loose, and the jig head's pulling down, and the tail always floats up, and it just sits in the current, and every time you move it, it goes the other way, and it works really well. I'll pass those around too. And they come in up to 3 ounces, and you can throw a 9-inch version of those, the next size up bigger, onto that type of jig head. Yeah, but out there, 7-inch minimum, 5-inch too small, 7 to 9, jig head, 1 ounce to 3 ounce out in the 100 metre line. Okay. Yep. And snap it.
You say they've got biodegradable stuff.
Yep.
Are they the only one like that, or is that
The Squidgy do one too. Squidgy biodegradable. There was one from Duro for a while there, but they've stopped doing it. It was like a Gulp style, but it didn't have quite the effect. Gulp's the go-to. Gulp's it. It's like cheating, but it works really good. So you work a bait like a plastic. How's that sound? But it definitely works, yeah. But if you want to mentally want to use bait style thing, you want to use just lures only, just think it's made of rubber. You're right.
Yeah. Look, to be honest, like they're not the most durable plastic. They get eaten up.
Not like a
everything
Z-Man.
likes to eat them. But yeah, in terms of fish catching, they're probably one of the better ones.
They're easy to put hooks on, which is really easy. Like, Z-Man's extremely hard to put a hook on.
Yeah.
You need to be like a professional because it gets caught up on the side on the way through, and then next minute it's all ski whiff on the jig head. But when you get used to using a Z-Man or some of those other 10x type plastics, the stretchy ones, they're quite easy to put on. Just takes a bit of practice. But anything solid like a Gulp or a Fuse or that power baits, they're really easy to put on. Yep, straight on. Easy. Oh, they're those new ones too.
Yeah.
Hit shads.
So we just got these new hit shads in from, who makes them? Storm.
Yeah.
They look really good.
Like that one there will
Yeah.
smack it on the 24s. We haven't used them yet because it's only brand new.
Yeah.
Got to get it and test them, but yeah.
Have you used much in the way of chase baits?
Yeah, so chase baits, I haven't yet.
Yeah.
I have used the squid one.
That's what I was.
Yeah.
I bought a few
Yeah,
of the squids.
yeah, squid's good.
The kind of went ridiculous, and I bought a 300 one. Yeah.
The real big head one.
The real big one.
Yeah, so that'll work out on the 100 metres,
The
and
100
or
plus.
deeper maybe.
They go up to a 9-ounce jig, I think. Which
Oh, is that right?
293 grams.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 300. Yep.
Where
Yep.
you feed the metal rod through it. And
Yeah, that's right.
assists on.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. So I'd use those out in the cod out in. That's the next seminar.
Yeah.
250, 300 metres.
No,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's
Yeah.
what I was.
Yeah.
I will aim for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I was
100%.
curious to see if he's used it.
That's. I'll show you a bit later.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but no, they work really well. So what he's talking about, they're like a squid with the sides vibrate, and they have like a head with a spike goes through with the cyst hooks hanging up the bottom, and they work really well. We can put a treble on the bottom. The reason why we don't jig most of these jigs fast, for not only because the action's better slow, but if you understand how the hooks work when they're on the bottom, when you jig fast, and the jig's sort of going all over joint aggressively, the hooks get hooked up onto the leader above the jig, and then it doesn't work. It just does not work. You're sitting there flogging a dead horse because the hooks are around the line and the fish is trying to bite it and can't get hooked up. You don't know that until you pull it up. You do know when you're using a longer type jig because you feel it, the action goes from easy to quite hard and vibrates a lot. So you wind it back up and have to unhook it and drop it down again. So we try not to aggressively jig them because that will take away. Although Stewie does his little fast jig, and Jack does jig fast, but you don't. Yeah. So you don't want it to do that. So especially in deeper water because it's too far to wind up and take the hooks off and drop back down again. So try and work your jig slower. I think the action works better, and I think you get less hook up in that situation. Definitely. Stu, just on those dough cans, mate, that's your little dough can.
I like organisation, and
I don't have time for organisation.
they've made a box that holds them in. So I can put them all in. They store all the sizes. You put the skirts nice and neat, hang them in the little slits. And I mean, it can be like 3 metre swell and 50 knot winds, and they don't move. So, yeah.
Do you mind if I pass that around, mate?
Yeah, pass it around. Yeah.
There's a couple of colours there I wouldn't mind, Stu.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, they're all full, so I know what's in there.
Yeah. There's 10 jigs in there, right?
Yeah.
Actually, only 8.
Yeah,
There was 10.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So
they have like a little.
we normally sell those
there.
boxes, but we just out of stock. We'll have more back in tomorrow. Hopefully.
Yeah.
But there is other things you can use too, because like jigs are always a pain in the backside to store, right? You can get things like that, like a squid type jig box, which has got little V's in them. And
That's smaller size.
Yeah, and you just lay your jigs in there, whether it be that style, take them out of the packet.
The problem is, like, as we pass that other one around, those hooks just get caught on everything. You can't just chuck them in a bag with all the rest or put a pile of them in one tray because they just get tangled up real bad.
They also damage the skirts.
That's true,
some of them react and stuff, Yeah,
try and keep them separated.
Yeah.
So when I'm at 100 metres doing this sort of stuff, as we said earlier, I'm looking for the bottom that's got a lot of like, if I'm chasing pearls, obviously I'm looking for wire weed, but a little bit of a rise with like single dots above it, that's a snapper. Single dots or single little arches down low on the bottom. When they're anything above, say in 100 metres, or say in 90 metres, and anything above 20 metres from the bottom, so say 70 metres and up, it's not going to be snapper, it's going to be kingies, amberjack or bonito, which are still good fun to catch, but they're not snapper. So they'll be right down low. If you're on like a gravelly type bottom or a shaly type bottom, they'll be right down low, because that's what they're feeding, right down low. Okay, there's no live bait there, it's just whatever they're feeding on shelly stuff. Actually, that snapper got the other day, Jack. I cleaned the snapper jacket the other day, that one there, one of the ones. It had like these little baby Alaskan crabs in it, because I felt the gut and it was like quite chunky. I thought they're rocks. That's how hard they were. And they're about the size of say 10 cent to 20 cent piece. Little orange crabs with really hard body and really long legs on them, like an Alaskan type crab, maybe the baby ones, I don't know. But it's full of them. So they were feeding, and where we were that day on that first reef, there wasn't much bottom.
No.
It was very flat. So they were feeding obviously on little crabs on the bottom. And most of the fish strikes were in the bottom sort of 2 metres. So you've got to work out what lure and what structures. So if the fish are up higher, definitely plastics work better because they've got time to waffle down. But if they're down the bottom, stick to the other two. Yep. Or you can hop the bottom with the plastics, but you can't do that out in deep water. Any questions on that at all, guys? No? Okay. So I'm just going to go to 36 fathom marks before I go to 50 marks here. So,
Just before that, though,
yeah.
time frames, mate.
Yeah, so obviously early morning bite's the best. The problem is the snapper, they started really early this year because we had so many nutrients in the water for the floods. They're already rocked up. They're already here. And I don't normally start fishing for them until late May, but this year we were already fishing for them in early April. So they're 2 months early nearly. Will the season last longer? I think it will because the water gets colder and they feel more at home. It's still 25, 26, that's why the mackerel's there at the moment, and wahoo and yellowfin and whatever else. But the snapper there amongst it, which is really unusual. I don't know if I can recall seeing so many mixed together like that before.
Yeah.
Like, so you can, obviously the mackerel bites best early too, normally. But at the moment, you got to decide, okay, I'm going snapper fishing, I'm going mackerel fishing. I don't know. But generally, they will be best around June, July, August. Yep. And okay, so bite time, the trouble with May, June, July is whales, right? And you want to be out in the 36 or 50s right on daylight, but you've got to travel for an hour in the dark. So you need whale alert, someone with good eyes on the front of the boat watching where you go. I always, as I said before, I always line up a trawler in the distance, and if I see that light disappear, I know it's either a big wave or a whale. And so I pull back and wait. Yeah, I smell so many dinos, so scary. I've had them jump out of the water from here to the back of the water while I'm doing 20 knots. But 20 knots is my maximum speed at night time if I'm traveling in the dark, and I would normally wear an inflatable just in case we had a whale and go over like that. And I always call the Coast Guard. You got to call Southport Sea Rescue because normally the tower's not open at 4:30 in the morning in winter. So you need to call up them first to let them know you're coming out. But just be careful with the whales. There's so many whales. I think they said there's 6,000 or 8,000 whales or something go through here for over the 2 or 3 month period. And they come back to the same scenario. So it's a lot of whales to dodge. And they're 24/7, they don't stop. They just keep swimming past. I've tried, I'm sorry, I haven't tried. No, maybe I've tried. In Japan. They eat anything. But yeah, whales are a problem. So if you can get out of the whale scenario and be out there at the crack of daylight at 36s or 50s, that's the best time. I actually fished with a pro back in the 90s. On the 50s, I was like, no one used to fish out there, even we didn't fish out there back those days because you didn't have to really, but late 80s, I should say, early 90s. And we fished the 50s northeast, and trouble was there's no GPS, I said, but he had a sat nav, and I tried to remember the numbers. I don't know what they meant. I tried to remember the numbers, but it didn't work. So then I remember the first time we went out at night time, we rocked up there, and I think we rocked up at like 11 o'clock at night. And he said, get some shut eye, we're getting up at 3. And I'm okay. So, and I got up at 3, and by about probably 6:30, when we should be normally getting out there in winter, so the fishing was still good, but they shut down. The major bite was 4 till 6 in the morning, which is before anyone gets there. Holy crap, it was incredible. Everything was like that, and just lots of, and then I fished with him for maybe 6 months, and then the guys I fish with all the time, we fished the 36s, I told them about it. And so when I went through him a few times, I'm trying to line up the marks in the morning before we go out and shoot a long line out wider, or we come back in. And so trying to line the marks, every time we went out there, they were burning the cane off, so I couldn't get the landmarks. I'd get the one down south, but not the one off Jumping Bin. It was just like black. So anyhow, eventually we worked it out, and I said to my mates, okay guys, this is the go. Go on 30 degrees, go for an hour at 20 knots, that's 40 k's roughly speaking, and line up the Mount Warning, and it's actually the dip behind Southport, there's a little piece comes out like that. I said, line that up, let it come out that far. Anyhow, I was out with him, I said, we're going this weekend. So I think Ross McCubbin might have known the area, right? And anyhow, so we go out there, and he's hit my mate, this pro had a 42-foot stabber. We're out there, and he sees this little tinny coming. It's like, there's a 5.2 yellowfin. He goes, who the F's that? And I said, I don't know. He goes, you haven't been talking, have you? I said, no. Well, we pulled up stabber, and like, we've already filled the box. And it's like probably 6 o'clock. I told him to come early. And he goes, shit. He goes, if we were anchored up, we couldn't get the anchor up. He said, oh, it doesn't matter. Anyhow, and we didn't have a GPS. In those days, we used to use a compass, and you could push a button and lock a little digital thing on. You line something up and go, dunk. And it'd be like 279 degrees. And you try and line up that little mountain. And then you go, dunk, that one there. And that was back in the day. Anyhow, and then I knew he wasn't going to be out there after that. And we were out there all the time. Smashed it. Absolutely smashed the snapper. And so that spot's on here. That's what I'm getting at. So it's on the under 100 metre one. And it's number 2, not the second one down. So that is my favourite snapper spot on the 50,000 reef. If you go out that far, if you haven't got a boat big enough, get a mate that has. And that's a really good area. It's also a great area for kingies and amberjack and rosy jobfish and everything else, but great for snapper fishing on lures. And we were just outside that the other day, getting those. That's where we got snapper about probably about 1k away, 1.5 k's away. There's boats inside of us. We were there. A couple of boats started to sneak out towards us, so we did a runner. But yeah, so that's the area, guys. Actually, the top 3 there are really good snapper areas. So are the other ones too. Don't get me wrong. And on the I'll go back to let's go back to the 70 metres where we're getting sidetracked. The 70 metre one. So 27:38. We are about 10 k's north of Jumping Pin. So up what we used to call the A mark, which is 36 fathoms northeast of Jumping Pin. Okay, so that's about a 50k run from the seaway up to there. And then the next one, 2740, is just south of it. That's actually the same drift. It's one big ridge, and that's you can drift from that 2738 to 2740. And when you're up that area, it's a lot closer because it's closer to the shoreline here, about here somewhere. So out here is like 20 k's out. Up there, you're about 12 to 14 k's off the coastline. It's a lot closer. When you're on the 24s up northeast, you're in that 50 metre line, you're only about probably 5k or 4k off the shoreline. Over here, you're at 10 or 8 off on the Diamond Reef. Okay. Then as we go down further south on the 70 metres, that 2748 area, you can see the 4th mark down. I don't know if you guys know this, but on the 36s there's actually 2 ridges. So there's actually, it runs for about 10k and it starts about 2/3 the way up North Straddie and goes down, South Straddie, sorry, and goes to around about here. And it's exactly 1 mile from the inside ridge to the outside ridge. So I don't know if you understand GPS numbers, but if you look at those 2748s, right, that's the like the latitude, which is the one across this way, and you can see there's like a 36, and underneath it, the next number down, 2748, it's got a 153.37. So you're 1 mile out. So you've got like a mark here, and then a mark here, and you've got a mark here, and a mark here, and a mark here, and a mark here. So if the snapper, I don't know if you know there's 2 guys, but the snapper are not on the inside edge, they're on the outside edge. They move around. They're never both on both of them. They're on one or the other. So if you're not getting fish on the inside edge, you need to go to the outside edge. Please remember that. You'll get a lot more fish. So they're either in here, sorry for the guys over there, they're either in here or they're out there. Okay. So you'll see that there. So that goes all the way from 2748 up to 2752, which is like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th mark down. You can see there's like a 36 and a 37 there too. So from 2748 to 2752, 6 nautical miles, that's about 11 k's. So 11 k's, that ridge goes all the way down, and the inside ridge goes all the way down. So you've got so many marks to work along there. So they're just a few marks. I've got like 100 marks in between those marks, but they're all on those 2 ridges. So the inside ridge, of course, a really good snapper. The outside ridge, of course, a really good snapper. But on the outside ridge, you get a lot of stuff like pearlies and kings and amberjack and cobes and stuff like that. Then when you get down to 2753 or 52 of that area, you're pretty well what looks like you're off the seaway. That's the seaway there, right? So it's actually about here. Now, how does this work? The seaway is 2756, that's the latitude this way. But out here it's 2753. But you're straight off the seaway because the latitude, the way we're sitting on the coastline here, is on an angle like that. So that's why it's like that. Does that make sense? So when you're on 2756 on the 36s, you're pretty well off maybe Main Beach, out on the 36s. And when you're on 2800, which is off Q1, you're down off sort of Burleigh Heads now, you're like way down, well not Burleigh, but maybe Miami. It's south a bit. That's the way the latitudes run. Maybe not that much angle, but a bit of an angle. It's a bit different. And then 2801, where you're off Burley Heads. 05, you're down, which is normally Burley. That's what Burley's on, 2805. But out there, you're sort of Kira. 2809's down off Tweed Heads Way. So that's the 36s. You'll also notice something else. If you look at the top one, the 2738, I'm sorry about the numbers, guys, but you need to learn this. It's on 153.36, which is here, right? That's 153.36. But when you get down off Tweed, you're on 153.41. So that's actually 5 nautical miles. So 10 k's east of the 36s when you're up north. And that's because this coastline goes out. So if you draw a straight line there, that's the 10 k's. Does that make sense? That you've gained in east-west. Sorry. Yeah. So it's because it's not straight. It's just the way it is. And then the 100 metre line, you've got 2739. Well, that's north of Jumping Pin, of course. That 42 mark is one of my favourite marks. The 44 mark is just a couple of miles south of there on the same ridge, so it's actually a long drift. That second and third mark, you can drift from one to the other. The 27, 46, 44, again, we're starting to wrap out a bit of out in the latitude, but nothing like the 36s. 2801, 2759, 994, which is about the 6th one down, and 2801 for the next couple of 2801. That area is really good area for snap off the front here. That when you see Sea Probe get a little snapper, what's he call it? Not the honey hole or something like that. That's the spot, the honey box or something he calls it. They get a nice big snapper on the back of their deck, like the whole deck snapper.
Is that the
So that's
Spot
it.
X?
Spot X is a bit further up, but they did get fish there around that area as well, Dean. But no, this is a honey hole. Good spot. Yeah, real good area. And then 2805, as I was saying, you're sort of off Kira, even though it's meant to be off Burley. 2807, okay, 2807 is a really good snapper area. It's actually a rise. If you got CMAP reveal on your who has CMAP reveal on their things? If you do, if you don't get it, please. It's expensive. It's cheap on your phone. Navionics has it, right? $40 app, $35 app, well worth it. So Navionics Australia or Navionics Boating, get that because that becomes your Bible on your phone when you're out there, especially on a mate's boat. You can keep marks on there and steal his marks and have the plot trial going the whole day. Make sure you're hooked up to his charger though while you're doing it. But if you don't have it, you got to put it onto your GPS. It's quite expensive. It's about $300 something bucks or $400 for the card. But gee whiz, I tell you, I thought I knew out here pretty good everywhere, but there are so many dips and hollows because it's shaded. So I'll show you on my phone later downstairs. But for those who don't have it, it's like 3D looking at the bottom, so you can see every little bump, every little ridge, even little bumps on the bottom anywhere. You can see the old rivers that used to be when we were obviously many years ago, and how they come into canyons and stuff like that. You can see everything, and the shading, the dark shading, in areas where the old sonar charts just had like, it might be 80 metres, 81, 82, 83, the straight lines are different as it's shelving down. But now there'll be like a black spot, right? And that black spot generally represents a big dip. So if you're in like 200 metres and you see a black spot, you know it's going to drop at least 20 or 30 metres, then come back up again. So it might be 200, 240, it might just be 50 metres wide, then it comes back up to 200 again. But I never knew that existed. All the time I've driven over the top of it, because the contour lines don't show it. But the shading, if it shows black and the contour lines still say 200, go to that black spot, and I guarantee you it'll be, turn your sound on as it goes voompa like that, and come back up again. It'll be full of fish. So that's how we're finding our new spots for deep water jigging. Sorry.
Do you prefer the relief shading on CMAP reveal? Or
Yeah, I do. Yeah, so I use the Navionics, yeah, on the phone. I use the, it's over there. I use the relief shading over 100 metres, and I use the, that's another one.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, that's the blue one. It's a blue picture. Sonar. Oh, it's a sonar chart. The sonar chart's clicked on up there, but down the next one, which is the mapping, with shading or there's another
It's not relief shading.
release shading to
That's it,
shading, but
yeah.
no, there's one more though.
Sonar relief.
See, it's sonar relief. It might be, yeah. It's the blue one anyhow.
So you use
The
that
first
on
one I
your-
use that under 50 meters.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
And on
the contours details a lot better.
On your plotter, you run CMAP and you run your Navionics on your phone? Or
So it depends on the brand. My sound is at Lowrance and Simrad, so I use the CMAP Reveal.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Which is CMAP and Navionics are the same company now, aren't they? Used to be opposition, but now they're the same
Yeah.
company. Yeah.
I use the same data.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you got Garmin, use Active Captain, which is similar. Yeah. But it's just amazing, guys. Like seriously, the amount of money you save in fuel, looking around trying to find new grounds, you just go straight to the spot. There's no guessing, and we've been, I don't know, for 2 years. We've come out 2 years ago, 18 months ago. From that day on, we would make a point of every time we go, we try a new black mark, which we did the other day too. And as soon as we go there, it's just new grounds. There's a fish there, and you can't miss. It doesn't matter if you're in 50 metres or in 350 metres. It's get a free phone to start with, and they'll give you some idea how it all works. And it's $35 or $40.
So they're in the hole,
They're in all the holes. Yep.
dark spots.
Yeah, dark spots. Yep. Amazing. We've got some that out like deeper that go from 320, which is, there's contours show 320, 320, like forever, you know. Big and
Colours
wide.
look better out deeper with all that red and yellow.
Yeah, that starts at about 600 metres, yeah. Yeah, about 300 though, you just see the black shading. And some of that black shading is 40 metre drops and comes back up again. Amazing, yeah. Anyhow, so get back to that 100 metres. 2807's got that little pimple. If you got that, I was saying, got that shading thing, you'll see the pimple there. I didn't know that existed. We found that off the chart, and that's a really good area for pearlies too, really big ones. 2812, that's down deep southern. So has anyone fished deep southern for snapper down off Tweed Heads? Really good area. Does anyone fish off Tweed Heads? You wouldn't? Yeah, well that's the Kings there as well, of course. You'll need a New South Wales licence down there, but it's a really good area. Okay, 2812, and just south there's 2814, which is another good area for snapper. I've actually got jewies there too when we're using. I think my brother Paul once. I can't remember using plastics or jigs. It was a couple of years ago, but we smashed big jewies in 80, 90 metres, fishing for snapper. Yeah, but punch all those marks in. Even if you put them in your phone, take a photo of it. If you're out in your mate's boat, you can go back and reference it and enter it into your mate's GPS. Just tell him to secret squirrel stuff. Yeah, give it a go. But they're really good marks. Yeah. Okay, any questions on anything so far, guys? You got it all tuned in? I hope you guys I know it's a lot of stuff, but utilise it and use it because you will catch fish. Okay. Okay, we're going to show you a little video of just the other day. It might be a little bit boring for some of you, but for other guys it might be all right. And this is what Masako's put it together for us. Thanks, Sonny. Oh, lights. Sorry. I'm just going to put this next to you if you don't mind, mate. Is that all right? Is that your phone, Jack? Oh. Yeah. Yeah, it's like with jigging. Dad, you use my jigs. How'd you lose a jig, Jack? No, it's yours, Dad. Yeah, thanks. Oh, just that switched on that one. That's it. So, this is water. No sounds okay. So just ask, if you have any questions, just shoot through as we're going along. Oh, is that one in the way? Just don't drop it, Jack's got juice, mate. Don't drop it, wherever you Don't show your secret squirrel stuff on there, though. We put this together. It's only 2 days ago. We've been that busy in the shop. We haven't had a chance to do this, but Misako scrambled it together this afternoon, real quick. Okay, that's water. And there's Jack's on a fish. So he's using a little robber over there. Those little reels, that's a little, I think it's a little finnow, I think. They're a good little reel. And the snapper comes up to the top. So that's soft plastic in its head. It's just inhaled it on the fall, which they do sometimes, and scoffed it big time. That's around 80 centimetres. So you can see Jack's jigging quite fast there, guys, with those little ball jigs. Not my technique, but that's Jack's technique. It seems to work all right. So see how much bends in his rod? It's not even, it's just the weight of a 100 gram jig, or 120 gram jig. That's out in about 90 metres deep, or 95 metres deep. You can tell Jack does a lot of kingy jigging. Technique's different, mate. So you can see he's like done that last part winding up like I was telling you guys. That's quite often, so you change your technique from whatever style it is to a fast wind, just because you know you're above the limit, and just go a little bit more but fast, and then drop back down again. So he's constantly bringing it up about 20 metres and dropping it back down again. So he's changed the technique a little bit there now. He's gone back the other way. You just got to keep shifting your technique and try and get them motivated.
So you are obviously mixing there and using baits as well.
No, well, my mate Jason owns the boat.
Yep.
He likes to electric reel fish, so I let him do what he wants to do because it's his boat. and we're jigging. But it's a centre cab, so we're still and I at the front actually jigging away.
Yeah.
Oh, except for here, because Jack says I've got a fish on now. So he's just hooked up now.
So you saw all those on the sounder before?
Yeah, correct. Exactly right.
Are you just drifting or you got to shoot down?
No, just drifting and not using the motors at all in that spot. No, it was actually not too bad. 1.4, I think 1.3.
Yeah, it was pretty slow.
It's slowing down the current now, so which is really good. Hopefully it doesn't pick up again.
Looks like last year's weather.
Yeah, it was actually last Tuesday's right there.
Yeah, it was like 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the best days we've
Yeah.
had this year, I think. Actually, this is the first time I've been out past 50 metres this year. I haven't had time. Oh, the weather hasn't allowed me to, you know. Oh, here's the fish. Now Stewie's getting the gaff here.
I'm a really bad gaffer. I should put that out there right now. I tried to gaff him in the mouth, tried to do it nice. I missed it like 20 times.
I put the phone down and said, Stewie, my
Yeah,
turn.
there you go.
I still got the phone in one hand. I just gaff it in the other.
What time in the morning was this?
This is about 8:30, 8 o'clock. The moon had just gone down. We still caught a few fish in that.
You tell that Doug's a meat fisherman first go, straight away. Yeah. I'm a sport fisherman.
Always a headshot too, by the way. Yeah, so, but the main thing is you guys understand how Jack was changing his technique there, right?
Your technique's better than that, Dave.
Oh, yes. But I was setting up there's the
Look,
can of
this is
stew.
look, in
Oh,
my
that's
defense,
Stewie.
it is like horizontal. It's very hard.
Quite easy, Stuart.
Yeah.
But that's me. That's my gaff shot. But that's the jig, yeah. So just using one of the rubber jigs. No glow. Stewie had no glow. I was using glow. It's not necessary to use glow as much as you think, guys, you know. And so, yeah. So I'm just going to... did we show my technique on there, Don? Oh, serious? Serious? Too slow.
Yeah. Not enough hours in the day to show Dougie's jig now.
It's never slow enough, I believe. So every time we catch a snapper, whatever we're going to do, like if we're going to keep it, we bleed it straight away. We cut the throat, obviously, and then put it on the ice after that. You can brain spike it as well. We didn't do that, we cut the gills but didn't brain spike it here. But if you brain spike it, it's much better flesh. The flesh is more, oh, nice drop check. The flesh is more tough, like not tough, but more intact. Yeah.
How about first prize for the latest?
Yeah, not quite. That's it. Oh, is that it? You didn't do the other one. Okay. Okay, you have to wait till next time. Sorry, guys. You missed out seeing the action, the true action. That's good, Dave. Thank you. We'll turn the lights back on if that's right, Jack. Is that right, mate? Thanks. So any questions on that, guys? So you saw how Jack changed the action. You saw how he brought it up just to the right column, then a little bit of speed at the end to try and get, if there's one chasing it, you get then, that's how he got that fish, I think. Well, I haven't hit you on the fall or and you went up fast?
I was slow jig and did fast and then just...
Yeah, we hit you, yeah. So change your technique as you're doing it. And that's the same in 24 fathoms or 50s or 36s. Same scenario. Just try and imagine where that water column is. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, okay. Any other questions at all, guys? Okay, this weekend the weather looks like crap. It's going to be 15 to 20 knots, maybe 25, but the swell's coming not that low that's gone down out past Vanuatu again, or whatever it is. So the swell's meant to pick up to like 3 metres, even though it's only going to be 20 knots. It's a big swell coming in, 3.2, I think. So it's going to be fairly big waves again. That won't drop off to around Tuesday, I'd say. But Wednesday, Thursday looks like the pick of the days if you can get time during the week. Next weekend, at the long range forecast now, it's around about 10 to 15. It's not too bad, but we've got to wait and see what the weather does. It is another long weekend again coming up, so.
Just a quick one, Joe.
Yeah.
So we pull up onto some of this ground which we know can be productive.
Very.
If we don't mark fish, is it still?
Yeah, so that's a good call, and so many times we still try. Okay, I always try because, especially when I'm doing pearly fishing, but snapper will too hide amongst coral and stuff like that. I don't know if they're feeding down really low or they just feel safety or whatever, and they can be stacked. So many times we've nearly just decided to drive off, but we drop down next minute. We just do a blind drift or whatever. Yeah. Next minute, wham, we're on. We're going, holy crap, and then they're on. They're there, even though you can't see them. Okay. And sometimes I'll zoom right into like just 10 metres. I'm like looking at the bottom so much zoomed up, or 5 metres, as much as I can go down. And you'll start to see the fish, little dots really close to the bottom. They're there. Yeah. You just got to try and find them. But no, if you see nothing, don't ever just drive away. Have us drop. If you know the fish are normally in the area, like all those areas, obviously look around a bit. Sometimes they move away a bit from there might be a pinnacle there, but they decide to feed on something that's 100 metres away. So just spend a little bit of time looking around. The other day, you guys probably get a bit peed off because I spent so much time looking at the sounder, working, trying to find the fish, and sometimes they weren't nowhere near it. And when we went and fished the deep, after that we went and deep fished in 250 metres, and we're catching a fish I'll show you in a minute. They were schooled up there, and we dropped down and catching flame snapper, and then we did the drift, and we got a couple of other fish with it. Then we go back up again, exact same mark, go back up along it, and they're not there. And I'm going, Jesus, they're moving around. But obviously I'd feed them on bait or something, but then I'd find them 200 metres, they've gone over, the whole school's moved over there. So I've had to do a different drift pattern next drift, and then we smack them, and then go, they're not there again. And then at the end, actually, I've got about 3 drifts in, then we couldn't find them because they'd just gone somewhere. Yeah. So you've got to work hard. You've got to work hard to get the fish. But don't give up on the area, because they'll be in the area somewhere, or they'll be down in amongst the coral or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions at all, guys? Okay, so I hope you guys get out there and put this to practice. I'm really glad that you guys are getting into the lure fishing. It's really important to understand how productive it is, and you get fish on pilchards, don't get me wrong. We'll talk about that next week. But I believe you get more fish on lures. And better fish, yeah. Okay, better quality fish. Okay, in the next seminar though, we're going to talk about, not next week, coming up in another month's time. And I'm sorry, this is not given away tonight either, by the way, this is going back to my house, because they taste so good. So we're going to be talking about these babies. This is only a little one, because I had to get one that fit in the esky. So this is a flame snapper, what they look like. That's what they look like, okay? So they're off the Gold Coast, there's lots of them, that's a baby one, it's about 70 centimetres, but we get them up to about 1.2 metres and around about 13 kilo.
What's it called?
Flame snapper. So, yeah, you have to come to that seminar. So they've got a big long whip tail, they're beautiful. These are like the nicest eating fish ever. And when I had a mate of mine, Russell Gage, he's a real good fisherman, and he always goes to Barrier Reef every year. He drives a big game boat for a guy for many years, and he goes to the reef every year, and they catch those up at Cairns, that obviously, you know, out in the deeper water. And anyhow, he used to show me his picture of these flame snapper and some good ones, and he goes, oh, get those off the Gold. I go, yeah, whatever, Russell. And for many years I said, yeah, whatever, Russell. And he goes, no, seriously, off the Gold Coast. I go, where? Tell me where. So after a few years, Russell gave me a rough area. I didn't give you the exact area. It was within about 20 Ks. And he said, just look around that area. So anyhow, we went up there and we went searching and I got good pearly grounds in from this area where we fish for those, but I've now found out they're everywhere. And we catch some pearlies, and we went out to this spot and dropped our pearly rigs, got some pearlies, went a bit deeper. I think, well, you get pearlies in 200 metres, you hear stories like that. We went about 230, 240, and then anyhow, we dropped down the pearly rigs, and next minute, bang, bang, and our pearly rigs got done, right? And we thought, oh, too light a line. So we only had big heavy rigs was used out in the deep dropping for blue-eyed trevally. So we put those on, dropped down, and they were big barcod. There's this barcod city, like so many barcod. And we thought, wow. So then we fished the same area for 5 years, from 2000 and my mate Greg, from 2000 maybe 12 or 14 to 2018 maybe, before we found out. Anyhow, we just happened to be there one day catching this cod and the occasional kingfish. You get kingfish out in 300 metres, whatever. And anyhow, I had some little hooks on because I decided to fish heavy for the pearlies with a heavier hook rig, and I had it on my line still. And anyhow, I dropped down in amongst the barcod, and Greg saying, I need to get heavy. I said, well, it's heavy line, heavy hooks. And he said, okay, you're going to get done. I said, no, what? So I dropped down. Anyhow, that next minute went boom, boom, and it was like this. I thought it was a kingy, you know, they fight pretty hard. And then as it's coming up, this red fish comes up, and I'm going, oh my God, it's a flame snapper. You know, I was like the holy grail was like kissing the bottom of the boat, you know. And I thought, holy crap. Anyhow, so we quickly switched to smaller hooks, and flame snappers are coming up. So we were there for 4 years using 15-0 hooks. It was way too big for their mouths. They only got little mouths, you know. So we're missing them all the time. We didn't know that. They were there all the time. And then since then, for the last 4 or 5 years, we've worked out there everywhere, and we used to start in about 220, then we're fishing in 380 metres for them and getting real big ones like this size, you know. So it's a whole new frontier. And what I'm getting is, if you've got a boat that's 6 metres and you know you see a little bit and you pick the right day, you can easily fish it. It's just a long way and a bit of fuel, that's all. So they are at the front here too, but I haven't sussed it out enough. I like to go north all the time. But they are out here. I've got a couple of guys catch them sort of off Burleigh and down Tweed Way, which is a bit closer, but I haven't sussed it out yet, but in the same sort of depth. And so for those who have got a boat 6 metres, or you've got a mate's got a boat 6 metres, come along, we'll teach you how to do that too. And you use obviously electric reels too.
So
okay.
380 metres, was it?
Oh no, 220 to 380. Yeah, 380 is the deepest we've got them in now, but the deeper we go, the bigger they are. They're like huge. They're like 1.2 metres and like triple that size. They're like 10, 12 kilo ones. Beautiful fish. So nice to eat. Have you got one out there yet, Dave? No. I know Dave does a fish. Has anyone here fished deep dropping at all yet? And have you guys got one at all yet?
No, because the marlin's crap.
Well,
No electric, it's Albie Witches.
oh, okay. So you can do a tag team on those.
Yeah.
Slap your hands and your turn for 5. So yeah, electric winches, they start off about, whatever, around $700. But I'm using that rod. That's what I use out in 250 metres.
Behind it.
Oh, sorry. That's my deep
Yeah.
water rod. That one there. That's it. So I'm running 300 gram jigs on there, and or 280, 300 grams, and a 50-pound braid, and it holds 500.
That held about 520.
That's a
520 metres.
2,000 size reel.
Yep.
So even when I'm down the bottom in 250, I've still got half a spool full. So it's not too hard, and it's good exercise. But on jigs, it's good fun. We're using the same jig as Stewie's got there. That's actually one rigged up. So he was using the other day in the same depth. And
Frankenstein jig got a bit of everything hanging off of it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
More hooks.
Yeah.
I like hooks.
Yeah. So I have my skirt on the top, and Stewie has his on the bottom. So as I said, he's different. But it probably works, Stewie. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's the first time Stewie's been out doing that. So he's just getting into that deep water jigging scene. We've been doing it for years, Jack. But Stewie's getting into it. You like it, Stewie?
Yeah, it's good. I'm going to tell a really quick story.
Okay.
So we're out there.
Oh no,
at
don't go there.
280 metres, and Doug's like,
Okay, let's do the draw.
"Oh, I've got the holy grail. He's fighting this thing." He's like, "It's on the." I said, "Doug, you got a snag," and he said, "Nah, it's got me in the reef. It's got me down there."
Yeah.
And he's fighting this thing, and he's got it halfway up, and he's like, "Look, the line's going like this."
Yeah, which it
And I was
was. It was like a
I'm not
fish,
seeing
like a
any
good
head
fish.
shakes or anything.
Yeah.
And he's fighting this
No, because
thing.
it was quivering.
And he gets it up. He's like, "Oh my god, I've been so long. I've been trying to get a flame snapper on a jig." And it comes. I said, "Doesn't look like a flame snapper." Doug." And he says, "No, it is. It's got to be. It's got to be. It's not a cod. It's not fighting that hard." It was a piece of soft coral.
Before I said that,
280 metres. It was about that round.
before that Stewie's on the camera video, I said, cut. Anyhow, it was a piece of soft coral, obviously, and we get a
like
lot
a
of
sea
coral on the
sponge.
bottom there, like a soft coral, but it was like an inverted mushroom. Does that make sense? So it's like this deep and like a bowl with a stump on it, and it was hooked in the middle, so it's fighting. When I pull it up, it's pulling it all like this. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, but I tell you what, the hook set was really
Is
good.
that still going?
And it was really good.
Stewie,
Okay.
you're gonna get done this weekend. Let me
Thanks,
tell you.
mate.
When we do our fishing report, you're done, mate. I've got some dirt on you, brother.